listeners, in a world that moves at lightning speed, mindfulness, it often feels like this another practice or like an activity in the checklist every day for us. It feels like a luxury, actually, rather than a way of being. But this question comes to my mind every time I think about, what exactly is mindfulness? Like, what if slowing down, it wasn't about escaping the chaos or running away from the present? What if it's actually about awakening to the deeper pulse, those hidden whispers every day? Now, welcome back to the Mindful Journey podcast, listeners. I'm your host, Sana, as always, and today I have the honor of sitting with someone who has lived that truth, not just taught it. Now, Dr. Will Tuttle's life reads like a modern day spiritual odyssey, from walking penniless across America in meditation to becoming a Zen monk in South Korea to writing the World Peace Diet, a book that has inspired millions to see compassion as radical act of love. So we'll be exploring about what it truly means to live awake through mindfulness, compassion, vegan living, healthy relationships, and the quiet joy of gratitude through Dr. Will's journey. Because maybe peace isn't something that we find, maybe it's something that we remember. So, Dr. Will, welcome to this show. And as always, it is such an honor to have you here with us.
Thank you, Sana. I really appreciate the work you're doing. And I love the introduction you just said because I agree completely that mindfulness seems to be a luxury that we don't have enough time for in our busy lives. But it's actually, as you say, something that it's a very foundation of our being, actually. We are conscious, we're aware, we are awareness itself. And so it's an exploration, an adventure, really, into discovering our true nature. So I'm delighted to talk to you about this. Thank you.
Totally, totally. Thank you so much for that perfect beginning to this conversation, Dr. Will. And um, often there is a story, there is a journey, there are moments, where we have epiphany, or there are some events that deeply affect us, accelerating or maybe being the sole reason behind our transformation. So I think our listeners, they will be very curious to know, Dr. Will, that how exactly it all started. How did you come across the even concept of mindfulness or concept of peace?
Right. Yeah. I think for me, it came about really when I was in my late teens and early 20s. And
Mhm.
I started to go through sort of a crisis of what I would do with my life. I was in Concord, Massachusetts. I was raised outside of Boston, Massachusetts. My father owned a business that was very successful. He had a whole chain of newspapers, and I was the oldest child, so I was going to basically take that over. And I had been trained to do that. I worked as an editor, as a photographer, as a writer, in the business department, as an accountant. I knew all aspects in the on the printing presses. I knew how to run the presses. I knew everything. And but I wondered if it was really the best thing to do when I was in college, and I started to read books from Asia. Actually, I heard about the Bhagavad Gita. I started to hear about meditation, Zen meditation. I started studying yoga, and this was way back in the early 1970s. So it was kind of all new back then. And I was going to college way out in Maine, which is way up in the kind of the wilderness. And so I just found it very interesting, everything very interesting. And more and more, I began to feel that our life is so precious that if we're not careful, we can waste a whole lifetime very easily being distracted by trying to make money and have success, so-called worldly success, and wake up and be in our 70s and suddenly think, "Gosh, what happened with my life?" And I really didn't want that to happen. I wanted uh, f- to live a deeper life and understand more about the nature of life. And I think being born in Concord, Massachusetts was interesting because I learned to swim in Walden Pond, and that's
Okay.
kind of a famous place. Henry Thoreau lived there back in the
Oh.
1800s, and he had the largest library in North America of books from India and Asia. He and Emerson and others were studying the ancient Upanishads and these teachings, and he kind of went off by himself and meditated in this cabin by the pond. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that somewhat inspired me to go deeper. And I talked about these ideas with my younger brother Ed. I just and I was really pleasantly surprised that he said,
Mm-hmm.
"Yes, yes, let's do it. Let's go. Let's have a spiritual life. Let's attain enlightenment, cosmic consciousness." And we both got very excited about this. So as soon as I graduated from college in 1975. We told our parents that we wanted to do this, and my father was very, and my mother both were very supportive. I was kind of again surprised that my father said, every man must march to the beat of the drum that he hears. He even quoted Thoreau. So, we felt this inner urge, and we decided the only way to really attain cosmic consciousness would be to go to California, right? That's where all the wonderful things were happening, we thought, in California. So we thought we would go to California, but we didn't want to just, drive a car or fly or take a bus. We thought we would walk, like the sadhus of India, and just walk across the country and meditate and ask. We had read about a great sage in India named Ramana Maharshi who encouraged people to ask one question, really, who am I? And to go deeper and deeper with the question of who am I? So that's what we did. We walked about 15, 20 miles every day, heading west. And we would just ask, who am I? Who am I? I did it thousands of times every day, just trying to go deeper with that question. We didn't worry too much about where food would come from or where we would spend the night. We just trusted that somehow it would work. And we worked our way west till about Buffalo, New York, after about a month. And then it was getting really cold. It was October. And so we
Okay.
decided to head south. Instead of going to California, we thought we'll just walk south because we realized we weren't going anywhere in the outer world. It was really an inner journey. And we
Mm-hmm.
walked all the way down south through all those through Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, all the way to
Mm-hmm.
Alabama. And we found a meditation center in Alabama where we could just sit and meditate for the whole day and ask this question of who am I and go deeper with it. And on the way, we stopped at a community in Tennessee called The Farm, and everyone there was a vegetarian. They were actually vegans, but
Okay.
no one knew that word back in 1975. So they said, "We're vegetarians," but there was no meat or dairy or eggs or even honey. Very 1,000 people. Lots of people, children. They were all thriving, doing great. So that was it. I never ate meat in my life after that in 1975, and then about 5 years later, I became a vegan, and I think that's really been very helpful also because I think one of the reasons we have so many problems in our world, like disease and conflict and war and injustice, is because
Mm-hmm.
we're not mindful of the violence that we're causing to animals and then eating. So I think becoming more conscious and more mindful of our food and our treatment of nature and animals and the environment, as well as each other, is really helpful. And that's what we started practicing. I started practicing vegetarianism and then veganism and then meditation. And in the early days, we
Mm-hmm.
were meditating so much. I mean, we were meditating 10 or 12 hours every single day. All we did was meditate. We just that's all we did, and, somehow, we didn't have money. It was really interesting. It was just somehow miracles would happen. My grandmother sent us $10 a week. We lived on just $10 a week, which is I don't know how we did it, but it was fun in a way because I remember at one time there was a book, by Krishnamurti at the local
Mm.
bookstore that I wanted to read, but of course, I didn't have any money. So, I went into the bathroom and I saw the bathroom, wasn't very nice. And I said, I'll paint your bathroom if you give me this book. And he said, okay. So, we would do trades like that. And living without money was a very interesting experience and just trading and figuring out other ways of doing things. But anyway, to make a long story short, that just opened a door, an inner door. It was like I left the world and I didn't worry. I didn't care about worldly success. I didn't care about romance. I didn't care about sex. I didn't care about money. I didn't care about anything. I just wanted to try to understand at a deeper level what the truth is of a human being. And I think I made a little bit of progress, quietly. I had some experiences
Mhm.
that were very helpful. My mind got very quiet and I could sort of get through some of the veils and have some experiences that helped me get more free. I think eventually from some of the ego stuff, but it's still, of course, the ego is very strong and uses everything it can to keep us trapped in the illusion that we're separate from the world. And eventually, I did. A few years later, I did get out to California. I took a few odd jobs here and
Mhm.
there. Um, and then I was living in a Tibetan Buddhist meditation center in San Francisco for a few years and got very deeply involved in Tibetan Buddhist meditation practice. I translated a book into Tibetan, from Tibetan into English, and presented it to the Dalai Lama when he visited and did lots of things like that. And then studied Zen, and then yeah, then I became a Zen Buddhist monk in Korea. So because I always said the best thing would be if I could just get paid to meditate, and I was kind of a joke. But then I was living in Korea in this monastery, and I realized that it was true. I was just getting paid to meditate. I had everything. I mean, they gave me clothes, they gave me food, they gave me whatever I needed. All of us, all the monks, and we meditated from 3 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night every day. It was a lot intensive meditation, monastery called Sangwangsa, and that was wonderful. I mean, I loved it. I made even more progress, I think, in my practice. But I eventually felt that I should come back to the world, and so I did. I came back to the United States in 1984 and got my PhD at Berkeley and started just teaching college courses in philosophy. And I did
Mhm.
that for a few years, and it was wonderful. I loved teaching college. I got many different courses in philosophy and, religion, creativity, music. I play the piano. I'm a musician, a composer also. So I really had a wonderful I mean, I've had a just the I have to say I've had the most wonderful life, actually. It's been so great. Leaving home was the best
Mhm.
possible thing because it just opened up all these doorways and then I felt that, being teaching in a university, in a way, it was like a prison. I have to grade the students, and it was nice, but it was so then I just left all that, and I moved into a Volkswagen bus, a little van, and I lived in that for 3 years and just traveled the whole country and gave concerts and did workshops on intuition development to help people connect with what I call the inner guidance system that we all have, our inner wisdom, our intuition. My PhD at Berkeley actually was on educating intuition in adults. So I
Mhm.
did that, and then my intuition told me, that I should go to Russia, to the Soviet Union, and try to make
Okay.
peace because we were ready to go to war with the Soviet Union.
Yeah, sure.
So I went over there. I was playing concerts of peace, in the Soviet Union, and then I went around Europe also afterward, and I met this woman in Switzerland who came over a few years later, and I married. We got married, and we've been married now for 32 years. My wonderful wife Madeleine, and she's an artist and also very focused on meditation and mindfulness also, and so we ended up just creating a life together we lived on the road for 17 years in an what's called an RV, like a caravan trailer. You know, we and just gave events, just gave concerts, lectures, workshops, retreats, teachings all over the United States. And I wrote the book, The World Peace Diet, which became a worldwide bestseller. And so then we got invited to travel all over the world, uh, to all over Asia, a lot to China, Korea, Vietnam, Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand, also to India, and to and all over Europe and Africa and the Middle East, and just giving lectures and concerts and promoting the idea of compassion, and really underlying all of it, the idea of mindful living, the idea of being conscious of our choices, conscious of the ripples that radiate from our life. Every thought, word, and deed has an impact, has an effect. And so whatever we think, whatever we say, especially whatever we do, it affects others. And when it goes out into the infinite web of relations, and it also always boomerangs back. It always comes right back to us. That's the that's the funny thing we don't see. Like when we treat others with love, we get more love. When we treat others with anger, we get more anger. And so I think, the underlying teaching really is that we can create a world of peace and harmony and freedom and joy and abundance easily. The only way to do that, though, is that each one of us actually making the effort to transform our own lives so that we're living that way. I can never change anyone else. There's only one person I can change. That's myself. But then if I am successful in that, then naturally I can perhaps then be an example or an influence that can help inspire others to change. But this whole idea of trying to change other people, I think it just creates a lot more trouble. So I really love the example of Mahatma Gandhi, who really worked on himself so hard, and he always said that over and over again. He said that each one of us can be the change that we would like to see in others, that we would like to see in others, and in the world. I wish somebody else was more gentle, then the best thing is for me to actually be more gentle. And that is the hardest thing to do in many cases. We want other people to change, and then we'll be happy. But it doesn't work like that. It really comes back to ourself. So to me, it's been I have to say a very rewarding, wonderful life. But there's definitely been times of pain, of just awareness of the tremendous suffering in the world of people, of animals, and there's just the sense that it doesn't have to be this way, but on some level, we need our lessons. I guess we need to learn. It's like the earth is in many ways like a school where we learn to be more conscious and more aware, and as we learn that, then we can live our lives more in alignment with the truth that we are, which is that we are spiritual, we're not material. So the final thing I'll just say on that is, to me, it seems like we get challenges that are always to help us. Yeah, I think of the earth also like a gymnasium where we go to, like, someone goes to the gym to get stronger, and they go in and there's weights and they have to lift these weights, and then they get really strong if they have to lift heavy weights. So if I go to this gym and I want to get strong, and the heaviest weights they have are only 1 pound or 1 kilo or 2 kilos, I'm not going to get very strong because it's not enough weight there. And what I see the earth is like a gymnasium with weights that can be very, very heavy. It can be a lot to have to carry. But the good news is that those heavy weights help to make us, each one of us, stronger. That's how we can grow. And we all, I think, have our own unique challenges, whether it's a health challenge or a relationship challenge or career or whatever it is. And it's through those that we learn and grow. And instead of trying to avoid the challenges, to try to embrace them and to see how it is we can respond to the situations instead of being afraid, to embrace them and do the best we can to move through and learn from the situation. And the stronger we get, the more we can handle, and then we get even heavier weights as time goes on. I see that it gets even heavier, and so we get called to be even stronger. But ultimately, there is underlying everything a feeling of gratitude, a feeling of joy, a feeling that this is a wonderful life. It's a beautiful earth, beautiful flowers and trees and animals and human beings. The beauty is everywhere. And the more I think we can see and honor and respect the beauty that is within
Mhm.
our own consciousness, in our own self, and also in others, and see the best in others and see the beauty in others, then we help to draw that out. And I think that's part of the practice of mindfulness is to really look with clear eyes and see beyond the outer form, see beyond the outer uh, problems that people have and look more deeply. One of the things that we did actually when we were on the road all those years is
Mhm.
that we did something that no one has ever really done, I don't think. We did individual music and art portraits for people. So we would come into a city every week. We were in a different city, and
Mhm.
I would give a talk about developing intuition. And then I'd play the piano, and Madeleine would display some of her paintings. And then we would tell the audience that if anyone's interested in a private session, they can make an appointment for the following day, Monday or Tuesday. Usually, I did, and they would sit next to the piano near me. I'd be at the piano, and Madeline would have a table, and I would just tune into the person's spirit beyond the personality, and I'd start playing the piano, and their spirit would pull the music out of me, and I would play for half an hour and this beautiful, always really beautiful music, but it was always different for every person. And while I was playing, I'd make a recording. So they would get a CD of the music or a cassette, depending on when it was. And Madeline would, at the same time, create a watercolor painting of
Oh,
symbols, like archetypal symbols that would come to her, maybe a lake or a mountain or I mean, all flowers, all kinds of different things, ladders and all kind I mean, and so we would do these every week, we would do anywhere from 4 or 5 to maybe 15 or 20. We would take appointments, and I would play and play and play, and people would, very often they'd have tears running down. They'd be so touched by the music. And sometimes people would say, "Oh, I'm having a really hard time in my life right now.
mhm.
And I am sure the music's going to be terrible." But it never was terrible because it's like, we can look beyond the outer temporal level and see the being. And so I could really feel into that, the beauty of the being themselves. And that would come through the music, and then they could listen to it later and be inspired, and they could look at the painting later, and they would see more of the symbols and what the symbols represented in their life as their life unfolded over the future. And then we'd get a phone call a few years later, and a woman would say, "Oh, now I know why Madeline painted that beautiful bird next to the flower because that represents whatever." So there was, again, looking beyond the just the surface level of the personality to the individual spiritual being that we all are, that we're here to learn and to grow. And so we practiced that. We did hundreds of those. We did thousands. And it was that whole for years and years, just learning to look beyond the surface level to the being. And I think
Mm.
the more we do that with others and with ourselves, the more we see the beauty that's all around us. And people really are beautiful, really. I mean, we are beautiful, kind, caring, creative geniuses, all of us. It's just we're wounded by the food, by the medications, by competition in society, by relationships, but all kinds of wounds as children we get. So the whole idea is to help each other heal those wounds. And the best way to help someone heal wounds is to heal our own, and then to share our understanding and kindness and love with them as best we can. And it's a great life. And the thing is, it's temporary. We're only here for a few short decades, really. Even if we eat a very healthy life, food and so forth, probably 120 years, 100. That seems like a long time. But I remember when I watched an interview of this really old woman. She was 117 years old. They thought she was like the oldest living, and they said, "What's it like being 117 years old?" And she said, "It just went by so quickly." And that's really the thing, and it's gonna go, it goes by quickly, and then we go, right? So while we're here, to be as aware as we can. The greatest tragedy is people can go through a whole lifetime and never be here. They're always thinking about the past or the future and missing the rows right in front of them, or the experience and their feelings and the people around them. So to really I mean, mindfulness is life. It's if we're not mindful of what's coming through our senses and our thoughts and feelings and our awareness and our intuition, then we're living uh, kind of like through a television set. We're just watching a program go by, and we're disconnected. So the whole idea, I think, in mindfulness is connecting with nature, connecting with other people, connecting with our feelings, connecting with our awareness, and learning to savor. I love that word, learning to savor the moments that we have, to just feel and experience. And I think nowadays it's difficult because we have so many technological achievements. We have computers, we have cell phones, we have all kinds of just ways that, in many ways, help us to avoid connecting with other people and with nature more directly. So I think it's more challenging now because of the technology. It tends to seduce us away from being connected to the moment. So I think it's really helpful to have a morning practice, a morning routine. We get up out of the bed in the morning and immediately begin becoming mindful and aware, and um, giving thanks for another day, and then taking time to meditate. We take about 2.5 to 3 hours every morning just for our meditation practice, to do silence meditation, to do some yoga, and to do some journal writing, and maybe some reading in spiritual books. And then I always go down to the lake that's nearby, take a swim in the cold water. And I think all these things help us to create the foundation for the rest of the day. So it's really important that we take responsibility, I think, for the quality of our consciousness, quality of our relationships, the quality of the food we're eating, the quality of the mindfulness of the day that we're creating every day. Every day is like an act of creation, and they're all different. And every day can be like the very best day we ever had. Right? Every day can be even better than the last. And I think it has to do with our consciousness, with our attitude, and that we have the power um, to to mold that in a positive way. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
that's it, yeah.
I must say, I mean, though we are short on time, but I think Dr. Will, I must say that you are a brilliant storyteller. Um, I think you should definitely. And I know that, for the fact that why the World Peace Diet uh, has actually connected with so many people out there. But if I can still, ask you, because it's a ritual on every of our podcasts, that if all the listeners out there, they who are listening to this conversation, they would like to get to read the World Peace Diet, they would also like to explore the journey on veganism or peace, ahimsa, and connect with you to get some guidance, what would be the easiest way?
Yes, thank you, son. I think the easiest way is through our website, actually, worldpeacediet.com. And that has our schedule of our events that we're doing, and also writings that I've done, and videos of talks and interviews, and also Madeleine, my wonderful wife, her cooking videos, preparing vegan food, talking about ahimsa and so forth. And we have actually a training. People can go through the World Peace Diet Facilitator training. It's an online training, and people can just send a message if they have a question. We try to stay in touch and do the best we can to help out. And so, yeah, that's probably the easiest way. And of course, the World Peace Diet book is available through Amazon and all the other booksellers around the world. So that's another opportunity as well. And we have a new book called The World Peace Way, which has got lots of practical tips: meditation, relationships, nature, creativity, exercise, movement, nutrition, everything. So to really be healthy and happy. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And listeners, I'll make sure to have all the links in the show notes. And until then, I think uh, if we can conclude here, I think peace is not the absence of conflict, but it is the presence of understanding. So, listeners, I urge all of you to read The World Peace Diet and also connect with Dr. Will. I'll have all the details in the show notes. And this has been the Mindful Journey. Until next time, stay aware, stay kind, and stay human. Thank you.